We will suspend at 3:30, which is when we posted the demolition delay hearing meeting for. So we'll get some OHC business out of the way in this part of the meeting, which means that we won't have as much to do after the hearing. So I think we can deal with a couple of things. The first is probably the minutes. So we have 2 months worth of minutes, 2 meetings worth of minutes because
I
we.
want to see if there's public comment.
Oh, yeah, right, good point. Okay, is there any public comment? I'm not seeing anything.
No hands raised.
Thank you.
Would you like me to add what I heard at the chair meeting?
Okay, I guess we can do that as part of the public comment. Sure.
I made the recommendation to the 2 select board members who were in attendance that at the conclusion of the discussion of any warrant article at town meeting, that the summary be reread in order that the voting public not necessarily get caught up in whatever the emotion of the speakers were. So to kind of not have happened to some of the warrants what happened to ours, so that the last voice doesn't necessarily carry the day, so as that people vote with a neutral understanding of what the warrant article is about. And then there was discussion that pertained to the Historic Commission only, serendipitous around the firehouse and some of the streetscape conversations, etc. So I just wanted to let you know.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Thanks for going to that. I had a conflict this morning. Okay, so back to the minutes. We have, as I was saying, March and April to approve because Bruce had some question about the March meeting, so we asked Jennifer to go back and re-listen to that meeting, and she made some changes to it. So if everyone's had a chance to review those 2 meetings, minutes, I would entertain a motion to approve the March and April minutes.
So moved.
Second, okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, so March and April minutes are now approved and we are caught up. The other thing I thought we could do with this 15 minutes, there are 2 other things actually. One, Charles, if you're ready, we can take a CPC update. And then the other thing I was going to do was update the commission on the archaeology project.
There's no real CPC updates at this point in time. In fact, there've been almost no meetings.
Almost a meeting. Okay, so we're caught up. There's nothing that we need to be concerned about as far as.
Well, there's going to be a conversation that I think you're going to present.
Right, tomorrow night.
Because there are some questions from CPC that will be put in front of the committee about the appropriateness of using the public education funds for a consultant or an intern, and that'll be discussed tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thaddeus, you're going to be able to make that? You and I are going to go to that tomorrow. So one development that's happened, so we've had some conversations about the intern, and there really isn't a practical way for us to hire an intern. It's got to be a real employee for the town. It would be an effort that was beyond the work that we get back for the intern. So what we've done instead is roll that requirement, which is for the commission to have somebody, a staff person that we can use to do some of these shorter term assignments that don't require consulting. We've rolled that into the RFP, and I'll explain that tomorrow night at the CPC. Okay, so that one is there. So then let me jump to, which is number 9C on our agenda, sorry, number 9B on our agenda, which is the archaeology project. And what I'm going to do is give a summary of where we are to date, because I think it's probably hard for everybody to keep the continuity. So I had a few bullets from Holly Herbster, who is the archaeologist who's been working on this project. So PAL, which is the firm she works for, conducted a site on 33 Orleans Conservation properties. So those are properties we asked the Orleans Conservation Trust to give us a list for, and they submitted a memo, PAL did, to OHC and OCT in February, so we have that. PAL submitted the assessment memo to the Mass Historical Commission along with the Archaeological Reconnaissance Survey permit application, and that permit was issued in March. It's number 4489 if anybody cares. And then after consultation on the memo results, they did walkovers of a number of sites. I'm just going to read off what those were: Meadow Bog, Namaquoyet Bog and Wood, Henson's Cove, Twinings Conservation Area, Mill Pond, Woods Cove, Kent's Point, Powah Point. Actually, and those are the areas that we went on. I went on a few of those that were conducted on one of the days. OCT was represented, and Tom Karras from OCT did all of those, and Asa Peters, who is from the Native Land Conservancy, joined on some of those walkovers. So PAL is currently working on the draft technical report for the reconnaissance survey, which is anticipated to be ready before June 15th, which is their date they're committed to do in the RFP they responded to. So overall, project's going really well, and I think this is going to be a really good use of CPC funds to produce some interesting results from all of those areas. What's really interesting is that initially we thought we would only do 3 or 4 walkovers and report on one of them, and I think now we're going to have, we've actually obviously done many more than that, and we're going to have reports on the archaeology and the history around a lot of these areas. So it's going to be a very informative report about what happened in Orleans in that period when it was inhabited only by the Wampanoags. Okay, so I think those are all points that we can now consider closed for this meeting agenda. Do we want to tackle another one before we, since we have about another 7 or 8 minutes, do you want to talk about public awareness, Thaddeus, if there's more than what we already talked about in terms of CPC?
Yeah, well, I'm not exactly sure where we are on that conversation. Beyond sort of the tactical elements that we reviewed and the seeking, sort of a consultant for sort of, some of the larger framework. I do feel like it's increasingly important for us, and I find it difficult with the cadence of the meetings, monthly,
Yeah.
to identify, where we want to put our efforts. So there, some of the things we discussed were obviously social media. That's kind of low-hanging fruit. I think historical signage, like on homes and how to make that more available to homeowners, that would be, something we could get, moving on. I do feel like, we need to further engage the owners of the homes who are on Form Bs, whether that's starting with Main Street and working out, that's something we also have to do. It's the question is just, how some of this, is going to get done.
So I think, the archaeology project is sort of instructive in that, because what happens is, once you engage somebody who's actually going to, execute on some of the functions, instead of just having us here, I don't know, pontificate about it,
Right.
Things can move along. So, Mike, what's the, once we are settled with CPC, which hopefully will be tomorrow night, what will be the time frame for us to put out that RFP and then potentially engage somebody to do some of this work?
We could have it open for as few as 7 days, so probably within 21 days we could have the responses back, evaluated, and ready to move forward.
So by the next meeting, we should have somebody to approve, and then you're not constrained by that, have to wait for a month, because you can
Right.
talk to the people who have the contract every day.
Right.
And assign them and have them
Yeah.
do things. And so
Right.
I think it'll accelerate, we'll move forward much more quickly once we you know, we have somebody who actually is getting paid to execute
Yeah.
on these things instead of, you know, having us talk about what would be nice to do. So
Yeah.
I think the pace will pick up.
And then the other thing, you know, this is a little more ad hoc, but, you know, better alignment with some of the existing organizations, public officials, you know, whether it's the CHO or the chamber or the select board, you know, really discussing the economic impact of historic preservation more broadly, and trying to sort of raise awareness in, with less of a campaign, but really more of just, you know, stakeholder outreach.
Yeah, I think it'll be, it's probably, you know, Mike said, so 21 days, that means we have 21 days to get ready
Right.
to put a workload, you know, on somebody, and probably the more specific we have,
Yeah.
and you know, the better that will be. So maybe we should use those next 3 weeks to try to get ready to have
Right.
that. And I think some of the stuff you're talking about, we don't even have to wait for.
Right.
Like, we can try to talk to people on the planning board or the architectural review committee or whoever else we think
Yeah.
we want to talk to, OCT maybe even.
Yes.
You know, so I think
Okay.
now that you're back, maybe
Yeah.
we could work on some of that
Absolutely, no,
stuff.
you know, I've got plenty of time to devote to this sort of thing. And then, I guess, you know, the question is, you know, maybe for Mike, but when we talk, you know, when we're talking individually to, or maybe one or two of us, you know, if we sat down, you know, with somebody from the chamber or some, you know, somebody from another organization, I mean, are there any constraints there that we should be aware of?
The open meeting law constraint is if there's a majority, 3 or more of this group that was
Yep.
deliberating in person or online. So
Okay.
that's what we would.
Just 3 or more? Okay.
Right, so we've got to keep it to
Yep,
2.
yep. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'll be, that, you know, that's the one of the things that we haven't really started moving forward on. You know, we got
Right.
the architectural thing, we got the Form B thing going now, we
Right.
need to, I mean, the archaeology thing, we have Form B going, and this one is maybe the most important one,
Right.
and, you know, we really need to engage, and I think, hopefully that will begin tomorrow, and we explain to CPC what we're doing, and if they're happy with that, otherwise we'll have to come back and figure out
Yeah.
Plan B at our next meeting.
Okay.
But the only funds, if they agree, which they probably will, the only funds is that $15,000.
Correct.
And that's the only funds that will be available until June of next year.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think we've identified some other potential sources of funds that we could go after, but they may not be available any sooner than that either. So you're right, so for the next, what do you want to call it, 14 months, we don't really, 13 months, more like 14 months, we don't really have anything other than the $15,000. We can, whatever we can do with that.
Yeah, it's a little bit less than 15.
Yes, you're right, it's like 14.6, but we put that other, what we were gonna think about using for the intern back into it, so it's whatever the full amount remaining is, which I assume Mike will figure that out when it comes time to award the contract.
It is the 15.
It is,
That's-
yeah, but we took out like 5 change to pay for the hosting of the website.
Yeah, we did.
$400.
Yeah.
It's 14.
400 or something like that, yeah.
So it's about 14.5.
Yeah. Which, by the way, we need to, I spoke to you about this, we're gonna shut that down, so we don't have to pay that hosting again. So we'll deal with that at some point too.
We're gonna shut one down.
The external website, now that we have everything on the town website except
Okay.
for the Form B and the property database, we can get rid of that. We're figuring out a way of having that functionality be available also.
So if that's shut down, how do you get to the Form B then otherwise?
Well, right now you can go to the MHC site directly to do it, but Mike's been talking to folks about possibly creating a map that would allow us to go to someplace where the Form Bs would be stored.
Yeah.
Make it a little, you know, because right now, nobody knows it's there, but you can really easily find the Form B right now if you go out to that website, put in a street address or just the name of the street, comes up, click on it, and either goes to that database, if it's a recent Form B that's not on MHC yet, or it goes to MHC and, you know,
Okay.
grabs the Form B there. But the town does not have the technical ability to directly replace that particular functionality, so we've got to come up with an alternative.
We'll have a few options
Yeah.
to review before August.
All right, it's 3:30, so I'm gonna suspend, I don't think I need a vote for that, do I? Suspend the meeting of the commission
Just a
and,
motion to open public hearing.
okay, so will somebody offer a motion to open the public hearing on 8, I can't say that.
Cascade
Cascade,
Gansett.
thank you, Cascade Gansett Road.
Yeah,
Somebody want to move that we open the meeting?
I move.
Okay,
Is this a good time just to flag my,
Once it's open.
okay. Is it a second?
okay, all in favor? All right, aye, the public meeting is open. I want to acknowledge that Eric Dre, who's here to join us for some other discussion in the commission meeting, has joined via video. Hey, Eric, good to see you.
Hi, guys.
Okay, so we have filed, there was an intent to demolish, I guess, was filed for 8 Keskakayagansett Road, and Ben is back with us. I said it was always good to see you, Ben. I'm not sure that's
No.
actually true, but
Yeah, last night in front of the Board of Health, they said, "We like you anyways," I think is what the way they phrased it, so there's always a certain degree of ambivalence when I walk in the room. My name
Just
is,
real quick, sorry, Ben.
Thanks.
Just to clarify, public hearing is open, and I think
Yeah.
Patty just wanted to make just a quick.
Right, I just wanted to, for the record, state that my family owned this property for 80 years. And actually, our family sold it to the current owners. I'm happy to participate, in fact, I would like to, but if there's any issue or conflict of interest, I will.
We have no objection.
Okay.
no objection.
okay, in that case, then, Ben, I think maybe the
Yeah.
best thing for you is to explain.
Yeah, I'm
what
happy
you-
to. My name is Ben Zender, I'm here on behalf of Andy Cooper and Emily McCon, who own the property. And with me behind me are Aaron Levin and Matt Schaefer from Hutco Architects, who are our project architects. And I'm hoping they can answer any questions about the structures themselves that I obviously can't answer. I'll give you a little bit of a sort of factual description and you my sort of legal analysis, which I'm not quite sure what it is, but I'll form it as I say it, I guess. So the proposal here is, this project, the property consists of a beautiful Cape-style structure that was built around 1790 according to the Form B. That obviously Mr. Herrick knows very well. The proposal is to pick that structure up and turn it 90 degrees and move it slightly to the east, and then remove the later additions to the structure, which, I've done some research in the building office, pulled all the building files on it, looked at it. A little hard to tell when they were originally built, but it looks like they were substantially rebuilt in the mid-1990s. So, my blunt assessment of the property is that the original style, the original portion of the house is clearly an important structure, both architecturally and in terms of its age. That the newer additions to be removed, I wouldn't classify as being significant architecturally by way of time, although they do form a part of the property, which is important in its history. Proposal is to lift up the existing older structure, turn it, move it 90 degrees, which would put its frontal aspect to Keskagensett Road as opposed to the west, and then to build a new addition on the property, which you can see in the elevations. So that's essentially a description of the project. Legally, I'm at loggerheads as to how to understand this project, because, I did some information requests from the town. I'm not quite sure you have a property inventory, but I don't feel like I need to fight that battle with you. And, maybe somebody else might feel that the project's important enough to fight that battle, but I don't. So, and I know that you're working on, with Mr. Slater, sorting that out, which is, I'm really happy. What really, as I look at this, I look at your definition of demolition, and demolition is the act of pulling down, destroying, removing, or raising a building, a significant structure. In this particular case, the applicant is not seeking to pull down, destroy, remove, or raise the original structure, which, I've looked at the Form B. The Form B identifies the original structure, but also identifies that there are other additions to that structure that are later additions. So, however the board wants to approach this is fine with me. I'm hoping that ultimately the board will find that we're not undertaking any activity with regard to what I would consider a significant portion of the structure that would merit a demolition delay or would be removing or destroying an important part of Orleans' architectural and cultural heritage. but also if the board were to recognize that this action here, because we're not pulling down, we're not pulling down, destroying, removing, or raising the original structure, it may be that in your minds, this does not constitute a demolition that would be something that you would be compelled to regulate under your own bylaw. So that's, you know your bylaw better than I do. That's my simple review of this bylaw. And we're happy to answer any questions you have. I like this project personally, I do. And by way of personal editorial comment, which has nothing to do with your review, I love when people take historic structures and pair them with modern structures. I think the foil of that is wonderful. So I like what Andy and Emily and the team have done. I'm not sure the design of the new addition is really something you need to spend a lot of time on, but I think this is a good project, recognizing the historic. I think turning it to the frontal aspect to Cascade Yancet is a nice touch. When you drive by and look at the property, you're really looking at the side of the house and sort of the entrance to the house. So I think this is really a nice project, and we'll answer any questions that you have. And thank
So
you.
I think, that, to get at your point of whether this falls under demolition delay bylaw or not, I think, it's hard to know when those additional pieces were put on and whether by themselves, they might constitute a significant building without doing a lot, more analysis and.
Well, I've done the research. I think Mr. Herrick can tell you exactly when they were done. So it looked to me like that section of the building was replaced in the mid-1990s, but I could be wrong about exactly how much was replaced.
So, yeah, so if you're looking at,
Maybe
the
helpful.
kitchen
This may be helpful, yeah.
and the bathroom, you're right, those were 1995. They replaced a kitchen and a wing and created more space. What I'm curious about is there is a dining room that probably is, it may have, likely not from the 1700s, but clearly 150 years old or older, that constitutes the first wing off the salt box or the box. And I don't, it's not clear to me in these plans what the intent there is, because that would clearly fall under historic, guidelines.
Certainly. I think, I know you have in your package this plan right here.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's, I'm so sorry, allergies are coming in. I think this plan, I think clearly shows what's being removed. Mr. Herrick, you know much better than I whether what's being removed constitutes that dining room. I think maybe it does. So,
Yeah.
this right here is what's being removed. See, so there's the original structure right there.
So the green part was being preserved.
What I'm talking about is this here is a vaulted ceiling
Yeah.
historic dining room that was, I don't think it was part of the original box, but it would have been built shortly thereafter.
I think that probably would be this section right here.
Yeah.
So then I think it's pretty clear we are talking about demolition of
Of a portion of the building.
a portion of the
Right,
building.
certainly.
So that at least settles the jurisdiction issue. So I think that means that we need to review it.
Okay. Fair enough.
So that's fine. I don't think we need to get into a long discussion about it. We are gonna have a discussion about what's a significant building, what's our inventory as part of the meeting today. So you're welcome to stay for that if you wanna hear about it. But I do think there's some things that are unsettled about this. One thing that I don't think is unsettled is a house that was built in 1790 and has a Form B, and it's had one for a long time. I don't think there's any question but that would be, that's a significant building in Orleans, but.
I can't imagine you leaving it off your property inventory.
Right, yeah, exactly.
No.
So anyway, all that having been said, I have to agree, although I wasn't aware of this particular part of the building that Thaddeus brought up, but I have to agree that a project that comes here and preserves a good portion of a 1790 building, and at the same time makes that property useful for the people who invest a lot of money in it and want to use it going forward, I think that's a good project, and that those are things that we should encourage. I would much rather have this situation than have you sitting there telling me, we're gonna knock it down, impose your delay, we'll see you in a year.
That's usually what I do.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that this is a, this is an outcome that personally speaking, I think we should encourage this sort of project, that, maybe we would prefer that the house look like it looked in 1790 and people try to keep it that way forever, but I know that that's not practical in a lot of cases, especially considering the kind of money we're talking about these days. So as an alternative to that, I think this is much less of a problem or a disappointment, whatever you want to call it, than a demolition. So I do think, I commend the people who worked on this, the idea of preserving this building, which is a significant building, I think there's no question, and, so that I think is good. Now, having said that, other folks should be willing to speak up and talk about how much you think we're losing in the portion that would be demolished with this, and where do we stand on that?
Do we think that the, sort of the older portion, was that added on as a summer kitchen?
No, there was a summer kitchen added on that was replaced, was demolished and added on with a newer kitchen at
Okay.
the same spot.
Yeah.
So that wing
Yeah.
out here, that was there, but it was,
Correct.
it was dated back, some time, and so it was rebuilt.
So
and then
this is
one
probably
was-
the only part of
Yes.
that's 19th century?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing I would say is, in terms of standards in places where there are historic guidelines, there is sort of an ethic where, the building goes on, from the street, what you see is what you saw, 150, 200 years ago, whatever, 100 years ago. And that the building goes on sort of, that the newer part, because I agree with Ed, that you can't just say, hey, we're gonna be confined to the space that we lived in 200 years ago. But that the building goes on or happens behind, so that to
They
the
go back,
eye,
they build back.
to the eye from the road, what you see is consistent with history. And I know this house is slightly off the road, but still, I feel like it, I would prefer that it adhere to that ethic a little more than it appears to.
Yeah, and I think again, I'm wandering into personal opinion, which I try to stay out of. Couple things, the site here doesn't lend itself to building in that direction, as you well know. You're moving into conservation jurisdiction. And then that idea about regulating the look and feel of the structure as opposed to preserving a structure really lends itself to historic neighborhoods.
Right.
And even Old Kings Highway, does that, I think does that pretty well. So, I don't disagree with you, Mr. Herrick, about what you think it should look like or what is envisioned in that historical review.
Right.
But,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
There's actually a very large knoll in front of the house that has a lot of locust trees on it and so forth, so you don't see it that way
Right.
when you go around the bend.
Yeah.
And what we were doing was, the historic road used to go behind that knoll.
Right.
So what we're doing is trying to recreate that historic road basically in spirit, so that, and then the house would be registered as probably the first thing you see when you go,
Right, you're right, the house did, the road did go, right beside that.
Really?
That house, as many old New England homes was the case. And so therefore, when the road was moved, which was at the direction of my grandmother, the house all of a sudden had this orientation.
That's what it was.
North.
Yeah.
It was like to the backyard.
It's like a bleak.
Right,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so that was always kind of an oddity. But anyway, I appreciate your point of view about sort of modern historic juxtaposition. I think there's an argument, I think the wings off homes, that has been true to these sorts of dwellings for, hundreds of years. So to move away from that is a bit jarring to my eye.
Yeah.
But But I'm not saying it's, there isn't an
Yeah,
argument.
and it sounds like there's extenuating circumstances in the sense here that the road moved, and so now the house is sort of moving with the road in the
Yeah.
sense of where it's gonna
Right.
face. All right, any other discussion on this, or do we want to move to a conclusion? Do we need to talk some more about what we're trying to do?
I don't need to talk, I have no concern with the request.
Thank you.
So I have a proposed motion, which I would read, and then somebody else could move, and would that work out all right? So the motion that I think we need is that the portions of 8 Cascade Gansett Road included in the notice of intent before the commission are determined not to be preferably preserved for the purposes of chapter 106. So basically, it says they can knock down that piece that's old. So we're saying that the portion that they're gonna demolish,
Yeah.
that we think is an older building, is not preferably preserved. That's the language of the bylaw.
Was there any exploration into the preservation of that?
I don't know.
For that dining room piece
Yeah.
that you're talking, actually, we have considered taking that and moving it. There's an existing barn that's on the site
Yeah,
that we'd like to take that because it's actually very loved by the owner with the vaulted ceiling and so forth, and put it on the barn actually, which already exists on the site. So it actually has been talked about doing that. The thing about the Higgins house is, with all the different, appendages to it, if you try to it needs a foundation, because it's on these old houses. My in-laws had one built in 1768,
Right.
and the whole thing was like you were at sea, because the whole sill of the house is gone, and it's a fieldstone foundation. So you gotta get like a true foundation underneath in order to pick it up. When you do that, you wanna get the main part of the house, the original part, and the
Right.
appendages actually don't make it when you try to do it.
right.
Because they're sort of vestigial, and then when they're attached, they have to, so the thing is, if we wanted to preserve that dining room, it would have to be taken off, and we hope it like stays together, because it's in between like 2 other structures, so if you take those off, right, do they act as bookends? And then what do you do to preserve it? So, because it could just go, like this, So that's the thing about, like, when you get into these things, renovations.
Yeah,
The pieces, the actual physical things about moving them come into play, but actually it is desired to keep that dining room piece.
but certainly if you can turn a 1790s house, you can maintain a small piece of dining room.
Can you tell whether or not the wood within that is old saltworks wood? So many of the old capes around here were added onto when the saltworks were demolished. They repurposed a lot of the wood from,
Oh, and
you
Yeah.
can tell whether or
Part of
not
the rock,
it's
yeah.
so in the Higgins
kind of
house,
white or gray. And so.
the Higgins house has this beautiful post and beam structure that's like mortise and tenon and everything,
Yeah.
and we're keeping all that.
Yeah,
That's all gonna, and then, we're adding a couple of dormers, but they're gonna be like recreated with the same sort of aesthetic
right.
of the post and beam dormers on the inside by a really great carpenter. That's gonna be able to like make these beams with an adze and so forth, to get the same look. And that's the goal. So I don't know if it's from that saltworks though. That's pretty cool. I never heard of that. So
Okay.
yeah, we did. We documented the whole structure pretty accurately.
I will second your motion.
Okay, so we note the intent to preserve that dining room, but we're saying that if it's a casualty, it's a casualty. Are we okay with that?
I know.
I mean, I would love to see a little more thought into how the dining room could exist, but I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I know you guys have probably, worked a lot on this, thought it through, but it seems to me to be not an asterisk.
So how, I mean,
We're comfortable with an expression of the board's interest that the dining room be preserved. I think that what's gonna be more important is whether Ann and Emily want to try to move that up as part of the barn.
Yeah, but I mean, historically, that's an odd thing because, that dining room would not have been ever part of a barn. I mean, I know things change over the course of history, but it still is.
But the barn actually is kind of like a guest house now.
Yeah.
So it's not a barn anymore, so it would be like a dining room maybe to the barn.
I know, it's just, yeah, I mean, it's somewhat incongruous to that structure, to the barn structure, compared to a Greek revival, which I think you guys have stated that this is.
I didn't, but I stand corrected if it is.
What's that?
I think I said Cape Style, I'm sorry if I said,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Look, again,
Yeah,
everybody, nobody's getting everything here, but I think this is I think it's a good project, you know, so.
I'm gonna add a phrase or.
I think in the history of the evolution of Cape houses is that the first box was built and then the next little piece going out, which your recollection was a dining room, was perhaps either a pantry or a milking room, or was never a dining room initially, because the dining room was part of the keeping room,
Right.
the bigger room.
yeah.
All right, I'm gonna reread the motion again. We'll see,
And just for procedure, could you close the public hearing first and then read the motion?
we have to do the motion after the public hearing?
You clo-
Okay.
Yeah, you close the open part.
All right, in that case, motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
No, I need the motion
So
first.
so moved.
Second, okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, so the public hearing is closed, so now we can act on the, assuming that means we're restarting our meeting, because we need to be in the meeting, I presume, to do this.
Meeting overlaps the
Yeah,
public hearing.
okay. All right, so I'm going to restate the motion. The proportions of 8 Keskeagasset Road included in the notice of intent before the commission are determined to not be preferably preserved for the purposes of Chapter 106, with the proviso that the efforts to save the dining room are undertaken on a best efforts basis. Comfortable with that?
No, I'm
Okay.
not, because the design clearly is not
Not
to
to
save the
save
dining
it.
room. So I think an expression of the board's interest that it be, is fine. But I don't want the building inspector saying that, look, you haven't demonstrated your best efforts to save the dining room, and therefore you can't get a CO. So
All right,
again,
fine,
yeah.
we'll say that the commission,
hopes.
yeah, okay. How about, the commission appreciates that efforts will be made to look at saving the bond.
That's fine, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I love that.
You still good with that? All right.
Yep.
Second?
I,
You don't have to.
I know it.
I'll second. Okay, you don't even have to vote in favor, or you don't have to vote at all. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, so we have
Thank you all.
3-1-0. Okay.
Thanks. Good discussion, thank you.
All right, so,
Thank you for bringing
Thank you.
this.
yeah.
thanks,
Good
guys.
night.
I'm not hanging around for this next discussion.
I don't know, it was so much fun last time.
I feel like I threw a hand grenade in the middle of something.
All right, so, our next discussion is item 5 on the agenda. Eric, thank you for being patient through that process, and we'll bring you in on this one. I do have a few things to say on this, I think, before we get there. Sorry, if I find my notes the right way here. Okay, so I want to start with the third list first, so that you have 3 lists that Mike included in the package.
Right.
There's a list of 443 buildings, there's a list of 152 buildings, and there's a list of 28 buildings.
Right.
I'm going to talk about the last list first. So the building of 28, we asked Eric to review all the buildings that were not previously included to be surveyed in his inventory of Orleans buildings. So if you remember right, there were, I think, Eric, the number is like 1,700 or something like that. It was a big number that you reviewed. And you came back with a list, and Eric's list actually had 33 on it. I found 4 that I thought were already included. Mike, you must have found a 5th one, because we went down to 28. Yeah. I can tell you what they were, Eric, offline, Um,
I can tell you, just to start, one that I took off this list and can be added back on, 76 Route 6A is part of the Governor Prince Hotel.
Oh, which has already been,
It's not been demolished yet, it is being commissioned to be demolished. There's an RFP to demolish it that has been awarded and being scheduled. If there's desire to put either of those properties on, I think it can be discussed. I did not want to include it here unless
Yeah.
that was the explicit desire.
all right, let's set that aside then, and we'll talk about the 28 buildings and come back if we have to visit that. So this list of 28 are buildings that Eric is now recommending that be added. So effectively, that list of.
Well, no, actually, I want to
Yeah.
go off of that. It's,
Yeah.
there are buildings where I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Whether, and so I wanted to sort of gauge your sensitivities or sensibilities around these types of buildings to see if we can, I can get a better sense of which direction you'd like to go. I'm not sure. And there are different issues that I wanted you to talk about, like buildings that are hard to see, really good examples of colonial revival that were built after World War II, mid-century modern buildings. There are different categories that I just wanted to get your take on.
Okay, let's take that first category, because I think there's at least a subset of the buildings that are hard to see that are visible from the water.
Yes.
And I found something in Chapter 40C, Section 5, that explicitly says that for the purposes of an exterior architectural feature in historic preservation, that a public street, public way, public park, or public body of water, if they're visible from there, then that can be considered, a public view. So
Yep.
I think we're on pretty firm ground if you're looking at a house that is difficult to see from the street, but is very obvious from, say, Pleasant Bay, somebody, pleasure cruising in Pleasant Bay, then that is part of the historic streetscape, quote unquote, if you want to call it that. At least, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just interpreting what it's saying here in the plain language of 40C, Section 5. And maybe I should make that comment in general about all of these lists, that if somebody objects to us including them on this list, they have an opportunity to come before the commission, because this doesn't automatically impose anything. All this does is say that we're gonna call you a significant building and you've gotta come and talk to us. So I think that we're better off erring on the side of being inclusive, at least that's my personal view, because we're not doing anything that's permanent or that's unchangeable. Whereas if we move somebody off the list, then they can't, then they're
This is
out.
the unfortunate sort of thing about your bylaws, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that these are buildings that I think should probably be documented. And that, typically that doesn't mean that they are therefore subject to XYZ bylaw, but the way yours is written, if you go this route, it does. So I think, I don't know whether you feel comfortable sort of looking at these buildings as an example through a lens of, oh yeah, we'd like to have documentation of this story and appearance of these buildings, like these 3 cottages on the first page, are really
Yeah,
good examples of craftsman cottages.
I'm sorry, Eric, I don't believe we distributed the pictures that you sent me, and that's my fault. We distributed only the
Well,
list.
Do you want to do share screen and I can
Yeah,
put it up?
that'd be great.
These are the Thayer cottages on,
Okay, Eric sent a list of pictures, which I meant us to distribute, and,
you know where they are.
Yeah.
and I didn't. Did I send
Can you see them now?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, great.
So, oops, hey, what just happened? Did I just mess something up?
No, we're seeing it.
Oh,
Now you
okay.
did.
we did.
It just said screen sharing stopped, so I'm not sure what happened. Try it again. Boom.
So you're asking us, if I'm getting this right, to sort of individually decide whether these particular properties are significant buildings for the purposes of our bylaw?
Yes. Well, and that's what I'm saying, the confusion is that I'm also, the conflation of this is it also means that they've become significant properties within the definition of demo delay.
Right, right, that's what the definition for us means, but that doesn't mean we have to impose a demolition delay. It just-
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, but I guess what I wanna say is that I'd be a little nervous about going on a case-by-case basis for these 28 buildings, when we haven't done that for the other 500 or 600 buildings on this list.
Well, these are the ones at the top are from the original Namaquay summer camp.
Right.
And those are very special, I think. I mean, the heritage of summer camps on Mayflower Point, there's very little remaining. So,
I think there's one left of Melchers.
yeah.
There's
So,
very little, you're right.
so I think historically, that's, from the town's perspective, I think those would be, you lose those and you lose, you sort of wiped out an entire era.
And it's, my conversation with the family is that they don't intend to do anything with them, but they're a development family.
Theirs, yeah.
So, I'm just gonna throw this out and we can discuss it. I'm not sure I am fully committed to this thought or not. But the idea that we've got a list of houses that were selected by a historic preservationist, I'm comfortable standing on that, as opposed to saying that I've personally reviewed every one of the houses on that list.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where I'm coming from, Eric, that I think, I want to say that we trust the advice we got from a historic preservationist over my individual opinion of whether I wouldn't know that these houses were what, what Bill just, and Thaddeus just mentioned, I had no idea.
But I don't want that to imply that I am saying that these buildings should be deemed significant. Because I'm just saying that these are buildings that I think should be documented.
Yes, so, right, understood. So you're saying these buildings should have Form Bs, and we're saying that a building with a Form B should be on our list. So
I think if I could just jump in here,
Yeah.
I think the idea here, kind of being the newest addition to the discussion, starting at C kind of makes sense as far as, we'll call it priority or level of scrutiny that should be given on each list to add to the inventory. I think that this should be looked at as a living document that is reviewed, not one that's going to be stamped today and never looked at again. The kind of three things to look at, that it's a document that gets reviewed throughout the year, as well as maybe voted on annually, saying this is our list and it's X number of parcels. Two, that during the year, that whether it is looking at photos, whether it is a description, however it is, to look at properties that either have been brought to the attention of the commission or just going through the list for quality control to make sure that what's on here is, and if anything is missing, it's added throughout the year, so it's not a one bite of the apple and that's it. And then lastly, how the definition and the bylaw works together with the list, that we're not at odds. So I
Right.
think all three of those things together will at least make it clear of, hey, here's our list, here's how it gets on the list, and here's how we make sure that our definition works together with the list.
Right, so I don't think that contradicts anything that I've thought about this, in terms of what, I hear what Eric's saying, he's uncomfortable just by his sort of putting it on a list, it becoming, forcing people to then not, have to come for a demolition delay.
So what the list does, I'll just jump in right there. What this does, if we vote on this list today, there's 623 properties between the three categories. And I apologize for the basic way I categorized them. I looked at this for a long time, and it was the easiest two-word categories I could put on, so I don't want to be misleading them all.
No, we're fine.
But if you guys vote 623 is the inventory of the town. This list goes to the building department. Any demolition request that comes into the building department, hey, that is a significant building, will be flagged for review for the procedure we just had.
Right.
If you guys look at it and say, hey, we'd like the 443 and 152, let's put that in the inventory today. We'll go through the 28 over the next 3 months. we'll add them as appropriate. Then that list goes today or tomorrow to the building commissioner, and we can add as you see fit. And that's,
You know, or we could do it the other way, make the list, you know, go fail-safe, make the list the whole 600 and say, hey, we're gonna review these and maybe we'll take some off over time.
that's up to the preference.
All right, so given that context, Eric, are you comfortable enough with this 28, these 28 buildings being part of our inventory? Are there any specifically that you think are marginal?
Yeah, there are a couple, but, I mean, in the one category in particular, I just wanted your input on is post-World War II colonial revival houses. The Massa Circle Commission classifies them as quote-unquote post-war traditional. They don't consider them to be colonial revival, per se. But I think, especially on the Cape, there's a tradition of building some very accurate, capes and other houses post-World War II that I think really contribute to the streetscape and the sense of Cape Cod. And just as like this one, the 79 Briar, and I'm sorry I didn't put the date down on there, but it's actually 1959. But it's, I think that's the kind of house that really contributes to the sense of place and the Capeness of the Cape. But it's 1959. So I don't know whether that matters to you.
Eric, could you pull up 123 Lake Drive? I'm just curious which one that is.
Yeah, see, now this is a classic example because it includes a windmill and built into it, and I think that's a sort of unique building typology that we find on the Cape. I've found about half dozen of them in Chatham, for example, and there are fewer examples in Orleans, but I think it's
I spent 1,000 years in that
But can I
place.
just make a comment here regarding Eric's remarks about sense of place?
Yep.
The house we discussed last time around on Tonsa and 8 Casquillo Gansett, there is a serious loss of sense of place with both those properties. If you look at, what was there, and it was called a hodgepodge, but it still had a sense of place. It was one of these, added on to Cape Cod kind of shingled buildings. A little wacky, but it definitely had a sense of place. It will no longer have that. 8 Casquillo Gansett from Lonnie's Pond is going to look like a big, modern, sprawling house. And that there is no sense of place with that. And so I just want to say, I know we have a limited sort of purview here, but it seems to me that the larger question is sense of place and how long it's going to exist.
So that's an argument for saying we would be happy to impose the burden on the owners of this house to come in front of us and defend demolition. Because that's what we're asking. That's what we're doing by putting this on this list. We're putting a burden on the owners of these houses that says you have to come before the Historical Commission and defend demolition of this building. I don't have a problem with
No,
that.
I don't.
Because I'd rather have, to me, that's not that much of a burden, that to preserve, what you're talking about that is. So I'm comfortable, like I said, we're not mandating anything by putting these on. Well, the only thing we're mandating is we're imposing the burden of coming before the commission, which is, I don't think is a huge burden when you own
When their builder tells them just chill for 12 months.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And the last, okay, that's.
What
that
happened
helps
in
me.
North Heights?
Here's a couple of other good examples of the post-war colonial. And this is a wonderful cottage here in the. But the other category I just wanted to confirm with you is, a mid-century modern. I feel really strongly that it is very much around the country and in particular on the Cape and most particularly on the Outer Cape is become extremely sort of popular as a study. And I mean, there are conferences every winter in Palm Springs, and the Wellesley and Truro houses feature prominently every year in those conferences. And there's just more and more of an awareness and recognition because these buildings are now old enough to be looked at from an historic perspective. And so I strongly encourage that, the examples that we have in Orleans also be documented.
Yeah, there are a number of them.
There really are, more than you realize.
Yeah.
Yeah, like here's another one, and I've done a lot, I've studied these a lot now, so I really understand them and know how to describe them, but I just wanted to confirm with you all that you support documenting that, most recent layer of architectural history.
Like I said, I think I'm comfortable with it. Is there any, so let me say, if we are comfortable, then what I'd like to do is hang on, I have two motions.
Before we vote on the list, I just would like to take a straw poll, if you will, of the board's appetite for reviewing the list throughout the year. Is that something that either A, you've done, or B, have an appetite to do? Or is the list gonna be important when someone...
Can I ask this question, Michael? When you say review the list, is it for us to review each Form B document and go through and look at them? Or is it to simply eyeball them as we're doing here? Curious what your...
That's kind of my question. What level of scrutiny, if any, would the commission be interested in? 'Cause I also think that it would match well with the public education initiative piece,
Yeah.
that there's, people want to learn about their property, want to learn what the process is. It becomes more transparent.
Yeah.
And it becomes something that there's more of a record on.
What, I guess the question for me is, what is the, if we break it down by task analysis, how many can we do in
Yeah.
an hour?
So you have,
Four,
right,
and
so we have 600. I mean, if we presume we're gonna review everything on that list, then that would be formidable. But if we say, look, anything that's 200 years old, we're not gonna bother reviewing.
Right.
Now we're down to, I don't know what that number would be, 400.
Yeah.
So, then you're talking about if you do,
10 a month.
pick a number, 10 a month,
Mm.
it's still gonna take you, 40 months. So you have to probably do something, we could maybe do something more systematic and say, we're gonna pick houses that are marginal or that there's been some controversy about, or, so maybe we just say once, we're gonna put it on the agenda every month to talk about the list, and if there's nothing percolating, we can talk about a specific set of 10 or 20 properties or something like that, or if anybody wants to bring something up that they have a specific question about.
Ed, can I ask a question?
Yep.
Because I don't think I've seen these lists, and so I'm just curious, the 640, whatever
Yeah.
number,
So-
what's on that list?
So you've seen them. So the 443 is everything on your inventory that you sent that says redo or, no, redo or done. Redo, done, or done J, done L, those two Form A guys. Or I think there's a couple of redos that have that too. So anything that has redo or done in the status is the 443. The 152 is everything that had survey in the status. And what we're looking at now is adding 28 more buildings to that 152 to say, we want to do Form Bs on these two. So that's the list.
Okay, thanks.
I don't think you need to commit to how you're gonna review the properties. I just think that if there is an interest in doing it, I think it goes a long way into, especially just taking the list as is today,
Yeah.
and then having the opportunity to look at it going forward.
I mean, we've talked about this. The most important thing this commission, the only statutory requirement for this commission is to do the demolition delay reviews. And so that should be an important part of what we do, I think, every month. And I don't have a problem saying we're gonna dedicate a portion of that time to looking at our inventory, and, so.
Well,
Yeah, but that
I
inventory
have
is-
one more, sorry. I have one more comment that I think maybe we need to take one more step before you vote on a list, because, and I can do it very quickly, but what I haven't done is look at all the properties that I recommended for survey to see if anything's changed since that time. And as I've started to do the first batch, first 40, a couple of times I saw, situations have changed, and I changed my mind about whether it should be surveyed.
But that would be okay, Eric. We could make that part of this process we're talking about, to take those off the list. If you tell us, hey, I went to do the Form B and the house has been, completely reorganized, doesn't look good anymore, okay, fine.
Right.
So I think we're okay I think the important thing, and you heard it from Ben, we have to have a list. So I think it's important for us to put a stake in the ground, and then we can work from there.
Yep,
Charles,
that makes sense.
did you have something to say?
No, I just think we should vote the 623 we view as being historically significant. And if either a property owner or anybody else wants to ask us to review, we'll review. But I don't think we should be picking 10 or 15 properties each month or something like that and reviewing them. I don't even know how we would do that from a fairness point of view.
Yeah.
In what we do. I think we should just have a list. At least we have a defined list at that point in
Well,
time.
I think we're agreed on that, let's have the list part, and then we can discuss,
And I think those 28 are no different than the original list. They were done on the best judgment of the person that we asked to do it with, and I don't know why we'd be looking at them differently than we did the original list.
I'm not sure we're looking at anything any differently. It's just to understand, as a commission, what's there.
Well, I would just have them I just have them on the list. If somebody wants to demolish a property, they'll come to us and we'll evaluate.
I understand that.
All right, so let me, I think we're in agreement here. Let me just go through this so I can explain everything and then get to the two motions that I would like someone to make. So, so we're talking about the third list. We know what those are. Those are the 28 buildings that Eric has reviewed and said, maybe these should have been on the list to survey. And we're saying we're happy to put those there. So now we take the 152 that were already in that category, which were buildings that Eric thought at the time should be surveyed and haven't yet been, except for the first 20 that he's worked on. So there's 152 plus 28. So there are 180 properties that we say are significant buildings, and we could do that under Section C, subsection 7, paragraph, or 1, I think, whatever that. So we have the ability to put those 180 buildings on the list right now before they have Form Bs using that part of the bylaw. So that's the first motion. And then the other list, so now I'm talking about the first list of the 443, the first list in the lists that Mike sent. And I've already mentioned, those are the ones that already have Form Bs, or in a few cases, they have Form As that Eric has said are sufficiently detailed, but maybe we'll get to have Form Bs in those eventually anyway. I would hope we would. And so those are the three lists, and those together are the 623 buildings. So here are the two motions. I'll read them, and then we can talk about them or decide whether it's appropriate. So the Historical Commission, by the authority granted in Chapter 106, also known as the Demolition Delay Bylaw, Section 106-2, 7, affirms the historical property survey consists of the 443 parcels which have Form Bs or are sufficiently detailed on a Form A on the Massachusetts Historical Commission. So what that does is in that first part of the definition where it just says anything that's on this inventory because it has a Form B, that's the 443. So we're going to affirm that. So then when Ben comes in here, he can't say, hey, you don't have a list. So that would be the first motion. The second motion is to approve the other 180 under Form C1. So that motion says, the Historical Commission, by the authority granted in Chapter 106, also known as the Demolition Delay Bylaw, Section 106, subsection 2, 7C1, has determined that the attached list of 180 buildings are significant buildings for the purposes of the bylaw. The Commission intends that all of these buildings will have Form Bs created for them, which will be filed at the Massachusetts Historical Commission. So together, that will mean that we have 623 buildings that will become the significant building inventory that the building inspector looks at.
So the only question I have is, how does that differ from the list the building inspector has now?
He doesn't really have a list. The book went away. There is no, that's been part of the problem.
No, Well, does he just look to see if it's a Form B?
I don't know how he does it, whether he looks to see if it's old or.
Okay,
looks
so
to-
he'll get a list.
He'll get a list, right.
He'll get a list.
I do think there's, and I don't know how you, and maybe this is just up to us to do on our own time, but I do think there's a value in this board better understanding the architectural, history of the town. Like, and, I know we can't all be Eric, but I would love to have like a 2-hour meeting where you just like walked through and talked about, the different periods and what created a sense of place and what a little bit of the history was. I mean, I feel like, I felt a little burned today, frankly, when, this demolition was framed as a demolition of two wings that were built in 1995.
Right,
I mean, that was not transparent.
Right.
So I feel like we have to know a little bit more about, the property that we're defending, its history and its impact.
Well, that's a perfect explanation for why I recommend some Form Bs get redone, because they're so old that they are not useful for what you need to think about now.
Right.
So like that building, for example, would have been much more detailed about the various elements.
Right.
Yeah, that building had had an older Form B, I noticed, yeah. All right, so I read the two motions. Are we comfortable? This will create a list of 623, right, the number right in front of me, that we will then, Mike will make available to the building inspector, and that, anything on that list will have to come here. And that may surprise some people who are in some of these newer buildings, but so be it.
But they only come to us for demolition, is
Right,
that correct?
that's it.
They don't come to us for additions.
No, only demolition. And I think I want to have, on a future meeting, I'd like to talk about demolition by neglect, but that's a separate issue.
Could we put the Binnacle on that?
It's already there.
Is it? I don't know, I know what the address is there.
Yeah, just,
It's going down.
Yeah.
So I would support that, and I would make that motion.
Okay, thank you.
Second?
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, how about the second motion?
I
Same? Okay.
support it, same thing.
All right,
second.
second, okay, favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so both motions carry. Great, thank you. We now have something that we can put our,
And also, I would like
Arms
to have distributed to us a single list with 623 names.
okay.
So
Mike, you can do
clarification that, if here's in your packets, pages 54 through 69 are a listing of the property by address.
On your yes, right, that's it. And
And
we're
that'll
gonna,
become the list.
yeah, we're gonna,
We'll scrub the parcel numbers, we'll scrub the Macris
Yeah.
numbers, and become more inclusive, but right now that list has the 623 with the
so,
addresses.
question for you. Do you think there's any benefit to preserving that distinction because it's in the bylaw? What qualifies under 7 and what qualifies under 7C1?
Yes.
So the 28 and the 152 qualify under 7C1, the 443 qualify under, so they're the significant inventory. One's a significant inventory, the whole list together is the significant building. I mean, one is the significant building survey, and the other one, the whole list together is the significant building inventory, which includes the.
So they keep changing anyway, because
Yeah.
they get Form Bs on it. It's a constant flood.
Yeah.
Bill, you had mentioned one time you thought some boathouses should be added.
Well, yeah, and.
And we can deal with that as a review and as addition, if we think that should be done.
You can't rebuild boathouses though. I mean, you can't do that anymore, right? So you can take them down,
Yeah,
but you
that's
can't build anything in their
No.
place.
So that's why they're not.
Talking
Beg
about-
to
I'm
differ
about
with
demolish.
you.
What's
I'm
that?
watching
I'm talking about them being
boathouses.
demolished.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
they,
watching boathouses get built.
they're getting,
You are.
what they're getting is
Okay.
totally rehabilitated because they're grandfathered in, right, is basically what it is. So they're being effectively demolished, but.
Yeah.
But I think we want to address that. That might be a future CPC
We're not gonna
project.
do it, we're not gonna do it now.
No, because I think we agreed that we may need to survey those from the water. And I think that would be a great CPC project for us.
Nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's down the road, but that's fine.
Yeah.
The 4 or 5 of us go out in my boat.
There you go.
Do that, I'd be happy
A
for that.
little field trip.
Well, you'd have to post it as a meeting.
Absolutely.
And we'd have to invite the general
Beverages
public.
included.
wouldn't we? Okay, all right, so with the reminder that I've said it several times already, but I want to make sure it's in the record that none of this requires a demolition delay. It still only requires the hearing, so that's what we're doing. Okay, so I want to move on to number 6, because it's related to this, and it's the demolition delay bylaw discussion. Eric, welcome to stay for this if you like.
Yeah.
So what, on previous attempts, and I looked this up, Charles, because I know you had made a point about this a couple of times. Previous attempts, we didn't really address the definition. We changed 2 things, or we proposed to change 2 things. One was we proposed to get rid of 1920 and change it to 75 years. And the second thing we said was that we were looking at whether to extend from 12 months to 18 months for the delay. So I'm not sure, after speaking with Eric, that even the 75 years is a good idea. So what I looked at, we have a sample demolition delay bylaw, and I think with a minor change, this would be a workable definition. And then we can discuss whether we think we want to extend the delay or not. So for me, the definition would be pretty simple. It would say this: any building within the town which has been determined by the commission or it's designated to be as significant based on any of the following criteria. And then these criteria are basically similar to what we have in our bylaws, so I'm not gonna bother reading them. And that would be it, that would be a significant building. So in other words, anything on this list, because that's what got things on this list.
So why would you add that? Why wouldn't you just say any buildings that have been designated as being historically significant, period?
Yeah, well, that's what.
Period.
Oh, period.
Period.
Well, because you need some criteria to say how they got on the list.
That's what we did. This commission defined them as being,
Yeah, I don't know if you can just have.
because
Wait,
once
can
you
you
start listing stuff,
Yeah.
the question is, what didn't you list, what did you, I mean, you
How much do
really
you
get
have to
into it.
list?
So here's what, I'll read the bullet points. The building is importantly associated with one or more historic persons or events, or with the broad architectural, cultural, political, economic, or social history of the town or commonwealth. Pretty general. The building is historically or architecturally important in terms of period, style, method of building construction, or associated with a recognized architect or builder, either by itself or in the context of a group of buildings.
So you're talking about adding that to a new
No,
definition?
that's basically the same language that's in our bylaw now. In fact, this is cleaner than, what's in our bylaw now is a mess, and it's got much more than this.
So how much of the bylaw are you talking about changing?
The whole definition, throwing out the whole definition, replacing it with this, that's it. And then if we want to change the
It's gonna
term,
make it harder to pass. The more you change, the harder to pass.
well, the
it's gonna
simplify,
be.
I don't know, simplifying the definition would make it harder.
Harder, the more you
Yeah,
change, the
I'd
harder
like to
it
hear
is
what
going
Eric
be
has to
passed.
say about
All right.
this.
I feel like if you're able to continue successfully completing all the recommended survey work to be done that has not been done yet, and that may only take a couple of years, then this current definition doesn't need to be changed. It will have worked, because you will have identified all the buildings that you want to have a survey form for, and they will have a survey form. And so there's no need to change this definition.
And if we want to propose 18 months instead of 12, and that's the only change, it may get voted for, voted down, but it's pretty simple at that point.
Yeah, I hear what
We're
you're
not
saying.
changing anything other than putting in an 18.
Would we be, there's a couple of things, that definition though is really confusing. Would we be concerned that people would challenge whether something was eligible to be on the list based on that definition? That would be my concern. 1920 is mentioned in there. A lot of these buildings we're talking about are built after 1920. Somebody could say, we've decided to read the or and the and a certain way, but you could read it the other way. And then all the stuff on the C list that's after 1920 would have
But
to
I mean,
come off.
I think the argument you can make against that, or in favor of this process you have, is that it actually keeps a lot of people from having to go through your process. Because if you just said, for example, buildings 50 years or older, or 75 years or older, you're gonna catch buildings that don't warrant a survey form, but they will be dragged into the process. So, I mean, I think you could market the current definition as a way of actually refining who would have to go through demo delay.
But we're still stuck with 1920.
No.
No.
I mean, I've reviewed this now with multiple attorneys, and they all have differing opinions, and we'll see both sides as far as you get to A, B, C being taken either separately or together. And a compelling argument was made, Charles referenced it last meeting, that C is a standalone, but it is not A and C, that C is a standalone. So the way C1 is written, any building could technically fit in there. So I think some cleanup is probably warranted. But I think just as you argue 12 to 18, not to harp on this, but the willingness to go through the list, there's a lot of good faith effort in that. We're updating our list, and that's why going from 12 to 18 makes sense.
But are you
And I
saying,
think this, and I really strongly think this, the less changes we make, the more likely it is that it gets more likely we can make it, we can get it through. Once you start changing definitions, then people are gonna argue what the definition should be.
I think the why is important there. We just saw a zoning bylaw, an overlay district go through, which is a wholesale change, but the why was strong enough to pass it. I think even the 12 to 18, while it's simple, if there's not a strong enough why, that is not gonna pass.
Yeah.
If you have a wholesale change with a strong why tied to it, I think that's got a much better chance.
if you look at in the context of the whole bylaw though, Charles, we're talking about changing one part of one section. So we're changing one definition in a whole list of definitions. And that's the only thing other than the number of, so it's really two small changes in a much larger bylaw. I mean, we could put together what that would look like and then discuss it some more, but I think that would clean it up. Now, maybe we don't need it, and if we don't, we'll go forward with just the other change.
I mean, none of this can happen anyway.
Right, exactly.
Well,
Till November.
theoretically, it could happen for November, but it can't, but, I mean, we can get a proposal out of it and put one, and redline something, and fundamentally redline the original and the other, so you can clearly see what the changes are.
Yeah, I could do that. So let's do that for the next meeting, and then we can finalize this, and then we'll be in a position when people come and say, oh, the warrant has to go
Well,
out.
if we're gonna do that, then I would, and we'll talk about it at the time, but I think there should be outreach to the different town committee and the select board, so that there's a pre-buy-in to what's being done.
Yeah,
Because
I agree.
otherwise, I think we run the risk. I would like, if this comes to the town meeting, that one of the selectmen stand up and support it. I'd like that.
So I just was, I didn't understand Eric, what your point was. Was it just to, I mean, the discussion really was about, these are historically significant, period, or these are historically significant and what makes them so is A, B, and C. I didn't quite get the point that you were making.
Yeah, and maybe it's not a valid point, but the point I was trying to make is that once you've completed your comprehensive survey and have documented on Form Bs everything you want to have documented, then the first paragraph of the definition of significant buildings will apply to everything you care about.
So I think he's saying is if you get through this list, you never get to A, B, and C.
Right.
Everything's
They're all-
at the
it's
top
all
of the
irrelevant.
definition, you have to.
That's a better way to
Just
put it.
basically say these are historically contributed.
What it says in the
I'll just read
definition.
it out loud. They all meet the definition of any building or portion thereof which is not within a regional or local historical subject to regulation under provisions of MGL 40C or special act of legislature, this is the big part, but which is included in the historical property survey of the town and on file with MHC.
Yeah,
So it's on, we've got the survey,
Right.
sent to MHC, accepted, done,
Yep.
everything.
So then you can stop.
Yeah.
Full stop, you don't have to
Yeah.
read the rest of the
No, I think
definition.
that's, yeah, no.
So I think
that's-
Well, the rest should still be there because things change.
Yeah, well, right now, we need the rest there because we have 180 buildings that don't
No, but-
qualify under the first
But
part.
things, I mean, to think 10 years from now, everybody's gonna view everything the same way. You need the other part of that there so that you can make changes
Well, you don't if you change,
if a
if you
future
change,
commission wants to change
if you
it.
change the definition to something simpler, then you can get rid of all of that.
No, but you may wanna add stuff.
Well,
A
you
future
could, yeah.
commission may not have the same point of view as this commission.
Right, but at whatever point of view it has, it doesn't need an overly complex, ambiguous definition, I would think.
But if it has no way, this commission, I think, should be able to vote anything that they view as being historically significant as historically significant and should not be locked in, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Now, I hear what you're saying, but right now, that, we don't have that luxury. We have the definition we have. And the.
Well, that definition says if this commission votes, it votes historically significant, it's historically
If it
significant.
meets the criteria in the definition.
Well, and it'll take you at least a year to get something like this passed.
Yes.
And by that time, another 120 forms will have moved into the other columns,
Right.
so.
All right,
So
food,
let's get a draft and
yeah,
deal with it
all
next
right,
meeting.
let's do that. Right, okay. So, we did the CPC liaison update, we're on number 8, wayfinding project update.
So
So,
I'm gonna.
Okay.
say,
thanks,
Eric.
thanks, Eric,
Thanks, Eric.
appreciate your
thanks, see you
time.
guys.
So, I went, there's a new initiative in town, I think it's new, right? This wayfinding initiative, which is where they're going to change all the signs throughout Orleans and make it easier for people to get around. And so they set up a committee, which I participated in, and now I believe there's a survey that you can go take on the website, they're doing a public survey.
If I can, I think the first piece of this wayfinding is the 2017 or 2018. This has been
Oh,
ongoing.
going that long?
And it is not to add, it's to uniform the signs. So all the signage will have the same, kind of, the next step of branding, they'll all have the same.
Yeah, but I got the impression, maybe I'm wrong about this, but under the cultural historic, I don't know that we previously had a defined set of cultural and historic destinations. And they're looking to create that.
I don't think that's been established. No.
Yeah, so I'll read them. Under cultural historic, the Center for Center for Cultural History in New Orleans, Depot Square, Academy Playhouse, French Cable Station Museum, Jonathan Young Windmill, art galleries and quotes, and the boat, CG 36500 light boat. That's what they have as a list. I wasn't sure if that was enough. I thought maybe we wanted to put East Orleans or other specific buildings. I mean, the Academy Playhouse is on here, but I was hoping that maybe some other folks on the commission would have some thoughts on this. So if you look at those definition lists, I would appreciate people go looking at that and reviewing whether that's the only thing that's appropriate, or whether we think there are other sites that we want to mention as part of that cultural historic category, or if we have significant objection to being lumped in with cultural, that would be another issue.
I've sat on a couple of those meetings, and it's becoming iterative in trying to understand what the definitions of cultural are and, what's going to be included and what's not. But I think to your question, I mean, Nauset Heights to me is a uniquely developed part of town, as is Pochit, as are many of these, but I'm not sure we want to direct people to those areas any more than people kind of wander around town. And I think East Orleans, Monday night, we're going to be asked to vote on $500,000 for the creation of a study plan for sidewalks. Then I think we have an opportunity to direct people to walk through the historic part of the community. But I don't know where else you direct people, to the beach, to the landings, clearly.
Right, those are under transportation or beaches or amenities, I think.
Yeah.
This was just the historical stuff, cultural and historical. All right, I just wanted to report on, I went there, if somebody else is interested in taking this on, I think there are gonna be a series of meetings.
I'll go.
You wanna, because I think this could also dovetail with the public awareness.
What, do you know
Especially
when
about
those
signs.
meetings are? Are they,
They're on the website, Bill, I didn't look specifically when the next one is.
I'll get you those dates, but.
can you do that? Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're down to the last item on old business that we didn't talk about, was Eric has completed the first 20. He did mention that he completed the first 20 of the new Form Bs. So those will be added once we receive them from Eric, whatever we decide to do, whenever we figure out what we can do with the Form Bs, then we're gonna have a collection of Form Bs that are not yet on on the Mass Historical Commission, on the MACRIS database, and we're gonna try to find some way to allow people to get to those.
So when he has those, you'll distribute them, and normally we vote on them, that
Yeah,
it's not much discussion, but it's, you know.
yeah, so as soon as, he says he's completed them, but he hasn't sent them. Mike, you haven't seen them, right? He hasn't sent them to me. I don't think so. Okay.
So how many more, we have 100, how many more do we have to do? How many did he do this year?
So we have 180 that are that have no Form Bs. So he's gonna, he's gonna do, they're 300 apiece. So we had 25,000 from the fiscal year '25 and 25,000 for fiscal year '26. So 50,000 divided by 300 is how many,
That's about it.
is how many he's gonna be able to do altogether between the 2 years. We just gave him the
No,
40.
no, no, but, okay, so going forward, he does about 60 a year?
Is that right? Yeah, something like that, in that neighborhood.
So it's gonna be another 3 years,
Yeah,
maybe
right, I think we
4.
have 3 more years, yeah, right, at least 3 more years of, yeah. So that would be 54,000 would cover the 180, but that's just the new ones. He's got a bunch that have to be redone, so I forget what the number is on the redos. There's still, we asked him to focus on the new ones first, but he's got, there's another list of, that have to be redone, so I forget what that number was. It's another 120 or so, or something like that, so it's another 3 years, I think we figured out, until we finish at 25 a year.
Well, we should make that, when the next application goes in, it should be very clear how many have been done and how many are left to do, and the anticipated time frame. It should be written into the application.
Do we have any data on what impact 18 months makes over 12 months?
On the applicant or on the
On
town?
the preservation of
Yeah,
the home?
I don't know, it's a
Zero.
good question.
I think we really have to think about, how do you preserve these homes? We got this list.
Yeah,
How do you preserve these homes?
yeah.
And, it's a longer delay, maybe absolutely the right thing to do. But, at some point, that's the end game.
Yeah.
It's not just, letting people wait it out or
It'd be nice to be able
partial
to.
demolitions that result in big modern homes or
It
whatever.
would be nice to have a tax abatement that you could give to people if they preserve the house.
Right, some sort of incentive.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I think to your point and to the larger discussion, it's public awareness,
Yep.
and it's on inviting, I think realtors may in part be a key to some of this when prospective people are buying homes, to sensitize realtors to the reality of a Form B, to sense of place.
Yeah. Do we know what the longest demolition delay, is there, due to towns nearby?
What is it, 24
I
months?
think 24 months is the number that I came in my head too, Bill. I thought
That whole thing was analyzed and published
Yeah.
by a prior committee. And I believe, like Chatham, I think just went to 18 months or
Okay.
something like
Yeah.
that, so. But anyway, we have something from prior meetings that
Yeah,
that
right.
detailed actually almost everything on the Cape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think your brother might have actually
Yeah.
done some work on that. I'll look
Okay.
it up. I
Okay.
should have it.
Ghosts.
Okay, I think
How does
that's,
it, I have a question. When a Form B gets done, how does the homeowner know that that took place?
I don't know that they do. I think that what Eric does is file them with the Mass
That's what I
Historical
thought. So
Commission.
I could argue that it might be a worthwhile expenditure of money to create a mailing to all people who have properties and mail them their Form B.
Yes.
And that might be a worthwhile expenditure of money in terms of getting awareness out there.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't have a lot of money, but that wouldn't be that much money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
agree.
mailing costs because we can print them, so the printing cost is very tiny.
Yeah.
It'd be postage.
Yeah,
And I don't know, maybe we could even use, does the town have a postage meter that it can be done, or in terms of?
Yes, we still have to pay for it, but.
well, they
Is it-
could be,
Is it
you
regular,
know,
is it full, it's full mail? Okay,
does the
so
town
it is
have
what it is.
all the email addresses of its,
No, I wouldn't
Residents.
mess with because a lot of these people are older people that just simply
Yeah.
don't have emails. I would
Yeah.
actually mail a copy
yeah?
to people. You might tell them in the copy
Right.
that it's available via email,
yeah, yeah,
but I
yeah.
wouldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's a, useful idea, we can think about doing that. We don't even have to do it all at once, we can do it in tranches.
Well, wait, so what's mailing? I forget, how much is a stamp now? What is it?
it's a lot, yeah.
80
it's-
cents.
Yeah, it's
What?
almost,
80 cents, that was it?
80
I
cents?
think so.
So 600, so it'd be 600 hours.
Yeah.
It'd be 500 hours. I mean, we're not, I mean, theoretically, we have that money right there, right now, and we could just do it.
You gotta print them.
Because we have a public education, this would fit under public education.
yeah. I think, you know, stakeholder engagement is a great idea, and even, you know, us having some interaction, that's the natural constituents here, you would think,
Yeah.
or at least many of them are. And I think we gotta reach them.
I think
and get
that's more,
support.
number of people don't even know it exists. There've been a couple years back where somebody was in here for a demolition or something, they look at it and say, really? I never knew that.
Yeah,
And it's not even 600, because there's 180, we don't have the Form Bs yet.
Yeah, it's only the ones we have.
It's only like 400 or
It's,
so.
though I think we should consider a commission where it's standard procedure with Form Bs that we mail them, that's
Yeah,
just
as they're
done
done,
every
yeah.
time we have
As
one.
they're done, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
And maybe that could even fit under the Form B, the Form B grant. Probably should, I don't see why it wouldn't fit under Form B.
I think either, you could argue, especially the public education piece.
Yeah, and you're not talking a lot of money, one way or the other.
Okay, I think that might be it for the agenda. Let's have a quick look here. We have, any new business? And we have future agenda items. We have property owner engagement and encouragement is a future agenda.
Actually, the
item.
only thing, let me go back one thing on CPC. The CPC in general, just so you know, they really do not want most of the commission to do any fall grants. Now, theoretically, it's written into the CPC that if it's presented, it has to be evaluated, but the overwhelming consensus, which I didn't agree with, just to let you know, but and argued it differently, the overwhelming consensus is no fall grants. That's just informational.
Yeah. We haven't done those anyway. We've always done ours in the,
Sure we
in a
did.
cycle, wouldn't we?
For the historical district, that was a fall grant,
Oh, I didn't remember that.
the one that got vetoed.
Oh, okay. So I didn't remember it. All right, yep, that was out of cycle, okay.
Well, it's not out of cycle, it's written in there that it can be done, but it's, and they did the one for the whole recreation this past year that was totally out of cycle, and late.
Okay, we have, next meeting date is June the 10th at 3 PM.
If we could just, to put a bow on it, we had talked about earlier, the Public Education Initiative RFP, do you have contacts that you prefer that goes to?
Oh, do we have anybody in mind for that? I didn't think I did.
I think you have to wait until after CPC meeting tomorrow. There was an argument that came out that the way the public education grant was written does not allow for hiring of a consultant or an intern. You were part of it, I argued back, I do believe if you take a look at the way the grant was, the way the proposal, there are two things. The way the proposal was written, there was something there for history, education. But the way the grant was written, it was written much more narrow than that. Now, you're going there to have that conversation where it's going, but until that's resolved, which will be resolved tomorrow, I'm pretty
Right.
sure. It'll be resolved tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I'm just,
But we initially, well, your question was, do you have anybody in mind? Even though that's obviously would have to go out for bid, it wouldn't.
At the price point, it just needs to be solicited to three
Yeah,
different.
I mean, I thought we felt like the guy in Western Massachusetts
Oh, right, yeah.
was pretty
We'll
good.
put him on that list, yes,
Yeah.
Kelly.
That's what I have, so
Yeah,
I can
okay.
look at natural, I don't call them competitors, people in the
Yeah.
same space, but if you've
Yeah.
got others that you prefer that they see it.
He's the only one,
When's the next meeting?
I haven't done a whole lot of research, I
3:00.
thought he was pretty good when we
Yeah,
dealt with
he
him.
sounded pretty good. I don't know if there's any different, just to like mix it up and put it out to somebody who is more on the marketing side as opposed to the historic preservation side.
Right,
So maybe we'll look up another, is there anybody that the town uses that's a more of a marketing type firm that might be useful to get a proposal from?
Nobody jumps to mind, but I can.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it might be useful to see a different approach from historic preservationist versus a marketing forward person.
I think Charles' point's a good one, good direction from the CPC.
Yeah, we'll do that.
What's
I'll do
appropriate
that.
to funds.
We're gonna talk to them tomorrow.
yeah,
I don't, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, point taken on marketing, I mean, I think though, if you got somebody who had expertise in marketing, you know, the value of historic preservation, that's great, but if you've got somebody who's just gonna bring you standard, hey, this is how you reach an
Yeah.
audience, but without really understanding the town or historic preservation, then I think you're in trouble, whereas you get somebody in historic preservation, he says, oh, this town, this was successful in X,
But-
and this is
right.
successful in Y.
It doesn't hurt
No.
to solicit, we don't have to
agree.
accept anything. Plus, sometimes you get good ideas out of those
Yep, you
proposals.
do.
You know, Chatham, that has pop, for Preserve Our Past, has done a reasonably good job of public education. And we could invite Ellen to a meeting sometime.
We should absolutely do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I've met with her too, yeah,
Yeah.
we should do that.
Yeah,
so I have one more
What's
question,
your name?
just so I,
Ellen.
we had a conversation about all the work
But
that
it's under
Joan did
POP,
on that
Chatham.
historical
Preserve Our Past.
district. And did it ever end up getting posted on the town? Okay, so, actually, you were gonna look at it.
It's there.
It's there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Where do you find it, just so I know?
Is there still a historic district study committee?
No,
listing? Does that go on?
That's gone.
The page is still active if you navigate to it.
Speaking of marketing, here, take one, pass it down.
Okay. The man himself.
John Adams.
Yeah, so if you go just
Raised him from the dead.
to the committee's page, in the Historic District Study Committee, and then at the bottom. there's a
So when the Historic
study report.
District Study Committee doesn't exist, which it really doesn't exist now at this point in time, will it still stay there, or will it?
Yeah, the District Study Committee is grouped as an inactive committee, but it's a link off the commission.
Because if we ever get back to that again, there's a tremendous amount of good work that was done in that
Yeah.
thing that nobody should have to redo.
Right. Yeah, so it's under communications, right?
No.
No?
So if you go to the Historic District dropdown,
Yeah, there's news and press, but there's communications, I'm looking under communications.
Wasn't
No,
the
it's
next
just
thing
the
after
bottom
that,
link on
was
the-
that it would be sent to the state? Isn't that what, if we proceeded, it would
Yeah,
have
it would have gone
sent
to the Mass Historic Commission, yeah, I think so.
And they would have either approved, I'm sure they would have approved it. Okay.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.